The art of sampling. If it's a mystery to you, then you've come to the right video. Today it's going to be all about sampling. I'm going to teach you guys little tips and tricks that you can do to get your sampling game going. So let's get right into it. So obviously the first thing that I did was I looked up the YouTube channel Vinyl Frontier, went and found a video, and here's the song that I chose. So obviously it is a good place to get samples from. So we are going to do the illegal things again. Yeah, no one sees anything that I'm doing here. And we have it. What we want to look at are the transients for the song. So what's the transient? It is basically the loudest part of the entire track. So it's where everything hits. So obviously this is a first hit here. There's going to be a bunch of mini transients, like these ones are like mini transients. If I zoom in and move it here, that is a transient. That is a transient, all the little peaks. But the ones that you see really clearly in the long run are going to be like the first hit. This one here, you can clearly see that it's like fading down and then going back into another transient. And then here you have two clear transients as well. This is another clear transient. This tells us what the timing of the beat is, and it's going to help us find the BPM or align the entire track to the BPM of our song. So right now the BPM is 120. I'm not going to change it just yet, but I'm going to zoom in here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is obviously cut out the first transient here. So what we want to do is basically get the first sound in. It could be here, it could be here, it doesn't really matter, somewhere around here. So here, boom, we have our first transient. That is the beginning of the track. What we're going to do is basically create loops, and then you can just kind of cut whatever you want and then repurpose everything however you want it after. But first we have to create our kind of big loop. So right now I'm going to do my best to try to find the BPM of the entire track. So we have the first transient. I'm going to put the metronome on here. We're just going to listen. It's completely off beat. But then we can look at the transients here and see where it's going to be on beat. So let's go super slow here. Nope, it's not zooming it in. That's it. All right, so this transient right here that we can see is basically our 3 here, the 1.3. So we basically have to just align it as much as we can. And we can see that the 1.2 is very close. This seems to be a track that was made like by hand. So no computers involved. It's real people that were using the instruments. So it's never going to be perfect, but we can adjust it after. So maybe we can make it faster by 1, sorry. That doesn't feel right. Feels better. So 72 BPM. Seems like the entire track is also 72 BPM. It's easier to match the project's track to the BPM of the actual sample, but sometimes it's not always the case. And what you want to do is we want to warp it. So this is where you could actually adjust it and make it perfectly on time if you want. So there's always going to be small minor adjustments, but when you're making a song, what you want to do is really get those transients perfectly on beat, perfectly on time, and everything else will kind of adjust and get closer. We can even bring this back. Whoop, bring this back a little bit here, make it kind of perfect. And let's say we have our first loop here. And there you go. But let's take a listen to like other loops and see if there's any inconsistencies with the metronome. Actually, I really like that. So you know what? We're going to use this for the example. So we're going to take these two, and I like the second part to be the first one because I hear it differently. So let's just move them and loop them like this. So this is where you can get to chopping and doing crazy things. The problem is that the vocalist does come in a bit early on this part of the loop. So it kind of sounds like it's chopped up too much. So what we can do is just bring it. So we bring in her singing coming in a little bit forward. So it's basically delayed by a bit. It's going to loop like perfectly. That sounds kind of offbeat, but if we bring it back a bit and kind of make it like this, that sounds pretty fluid. And there you go. From here, we can now pitch it up and down however we want. Pitch the first one up by 6, the other one down by 6, creates a cool effect. There's all kinds of things you can do. So as long as you're keeping it in the same key, you can pitch it up, pitch it down, however you want. And then from there, you start making your beat. You put your instruments on top of it, manipulate the audio however you want. Once you have your chops, you could also reverse them. So the reverse button in Ableton is right here. That's kind of fire. So then you could also just pitch it down if you want. Like I said, pitch down the reverse sample. So you can add an EQ, obviously, to cut out some of the noise, because you're going to be adding your own drums. Usually you want to cut out maybe 100 hertz. Around here. Maybe even sometimes a compressor, because obviously these are like old tracks, so you're going to want to flatten them out a little bit, because you can see here that it's like a very low volume. But that's if you want to keep the dynamics equal. If you don't and you want to keep them like just reversed simply like that, then it's fine. But I'm just testing out different ways of doing it. So that already sounds like a crazy loop that you could use. Sometimes even you can add some distortion if you want. This might make it too crazy, but we can always try it. Ableton has a great vinyl distortion here that you could use. Well, yeah, you can manipulate it however you want, even put some flangers on it. Make it kind of weird, you know? This is sounding really dark. You could even add a guitar amp if you want, but I'm not going to do that because, I mean, these are almost all guitar amp effects, but it's going to add that distortion, that like guitar distortion that we all like. But yeah, now you could also like take the reverse sample and just chop it up however you want, move them, test out different things. You could even try yourself to just predict what the sound is going to be and make the melody in your head from the samples that you have, and then you just chop it up after. But if you don't know what you're doing and you just want to like test out things, you could always just always make crazy loops and just do whatever the hell you want, you know? So yeah, those are the basics of sampling. You want to basically retime it and then precisely retime it if you need to. Then after that, you can pitch it up, pitch it down, chop it however way you want, and then add whatever effects that you want. It's not too complicated, but it does take practice to really get it on beat sometimes, because you really have to know what the transients are. So if you guys learn a little bit of something, give the video a like, subscribe for more music production content. You can check out my music in the description down below. There's also my beats and my mixing and mastering services. My name is Tiny, and as always, I'm signing out.